So a couple of days ago, we headed for the summit of a place called Mount Gungun on the Sunshine Coast. This had been a location that was top of my list since I've arrived in Australia, and I knew I wanted to shoot at sunset. The sun was setting directly behind the mountains, and I was just hoping for some nice light, but nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to see. So you're going to see a couple of images at the end of this little clip, and then we're going to jump into an editing video where I go through how I shot, merged, blended and edited a panel all in Lightroom. So I hope you enjoy it. Well, welcome along to a little editing tutorial here. Because I didn't shoot much video there, I said I'll give you an insight into the raw files and an insight into how I shoot bracketed panoramas. So you've probably seen already on the screen in front of you is a panel, and it's made up of these two exposures, so this one and this one. Now those two panels are made up of, I think, 6 images. Let me see. Okay, so let's have a look at the raw files. So firstly, why would I want to shoot a panel here? Well, I wanted to shoot a panel because I wanted to get more of the sky, so it's a vertical panorama. I wanted to get more of the sky in as well as the foreground. So what I did was I set my camera up, I leveled up my tripod and my camera, and I set it to take 2 exposures each frame. So one exposure was my base exposure, which is these ones you'll see, and then I set it up to take an exposure which was 2 frames or 2 stops darker, and that will give you this exposure. Now what you do is you take your 2 frames, or you take your 2 exposures and you move it on to the next frame, and the camera will take 2 exposures and you move it on to the next frame. The camera will take 2 exposures, next one at 15-degree intervals, etc, etc. This isn't a all-out panel tutorial, this is more so for bracketing and whatnot. And here's other 2. So these are my raw files, as you can see. And you're probably wondering, how do I stitch these? Well, what I do, I know Lightroom has a HDR panel function, but I don't use that. What I do is I stitch 2 panels individually first, and then I'll blend them. So what I done was I stitched this, and I held Command or Control, select my images, right click, go to Photo Merge and Panorama, which resulted in this panel. And then I done here, these images, I blended them, or sorry, I merged them as a panel, and that resulted in this panorama here. So I've got this exposure and this exposure, and it's basically like I shot one image with 2 exposures, one for my shadows and midtones and one for my highlights. Now you get onto the blending part. Now I'm actually quite impressed with HDR blending in Lightroom. It has much improved since the old days where it looked like, I don't even know what it looked like. It didn't work in the. The first time I tried HDR blending in Lightroom, that's when I decided to learn how to use luminosity masks in Photoshop. However, this tutorial is purely Lightroom based, so if you're only editing in Lightroom, you're in luck. I'm not going to delve into any of the Photoshop stuff. There's plenty of that on my YouTube channel already. So when I have my 2 panels created, I go to Photo Merge and HDR, and in fairness, it does a good job. So it has merged the 2 images, okay, and this was the result. Now I have undone the auto crops, I want to crop them myself, and now I've got plenty of detail, okay. And you're probably thinking, hang on a second, Sean, it's a bit dark. Well, because this is a HDR image, it contains all the shadow detail from my shadow exposure, we'll call it, and it also contains all the highlight detail from the darker exposure. So I can make my base adjustments like that. And here you go. Now look at the detail inside in this panel. This is why I like shooting panels. Look at you can see a tiny little stream flowing over the mountain. It's insane. I will hold my hand up and say I should have gone a bit longer on the focal length. The mountain is just a bit too small for my liking. However, I'm now going to show you how we can go from this to this. And I'm going to do everything solely in Lightroom. Okay? Using masking and using split toning. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crop this. Now, what crop ratio did I go for? I'm just going to go for my 4:6 for the moment. I might go 4:5 in a minute, I'll see. And I'm going to bring that right in. And because this is a panel, I can crop nicely in like that. Now, you're probably thinking there's an awful lot of dead space in this image. Well, I want this really big ominous sky to be included in the image, okay? And I kind of want the mountain to look almost a bit small. Okay, so what I'm going to do next, I always love to pull a grad down from the top of my sky, and it's a really easy way to create mood and depth and frame up an image. Now, however, sometimes you'll find when you do that, you end up darkening your subject, okay? So an easy way out of that in Lightroom is select sky here in the masking tool, okay, and then if I go up here and I right click, okay, sorry, I have to select sky and I'm going to darken that sky first, right? Darken that right down, pull the blacks. Now as you can see, because it was a sky selection, it's creating a natural kind of halo here, but we're only interested in darkening the top of the image. So now I can right click, go to intersect mask width and linear gradient, and basically only the area where the grad is being pulled down to is going to darken. So now we've darkened the top of our sky, but we haven't affected our mountain, okay? Just like that. Perfect. So that's created a nice bit of mood. I like to frame an image top and bottom because it draws your eye into the center of the frame, which is more than likely, if you framed up correctly, where your interest is. Alright. Now, next I'm going to get my radial tool, so radial gradient, and I'm going to put it over here, over the sky, just the center here where all the action is. I'm going to come down to my global adjustment, or sorry, no global adjustments, we'll call it that, and I'm going to up the blacks. Right, now bear with me. Okay, I'm going to pull down the highlights because I don't want those highlights getting too blown out. Up the blacks. I'm going to warm it up a bit, and I'm going to reduce the clarity because I want to soften all that light. I'm going to soften all this light in this area, and I'm going to go with negative dehaze. Okay, so we're adding light, we're adding that soft glow into where it actually was, and I'll go a bit more with the color here, tint, and a small bit of contrast. Okay, now done. Yeah, I'm only messing. As you can see, we have created a very unnatural look over our mountains. So how do we fix that? Well, go into your mask, okay, and then you click this button, subtract mask, and brush. There's loads of different ways you can do this, but this is the way I do it. Zoom right in, make sure your settings, your flow and your feather are increased, and let's brush out that mask. I never thought I'd see the day where I'd be able to do this in Lightroom. This is why I learned how to use Photoshop, because I used to do all these different things. But now Lightroom, really and truly, it has made our lives easier. And for someone starting out in landscape photography, I envy you, because you might not have to go away and learn how to do all the complicated things in Photoshop. Now I'm just brushing out the areas I don't want that mask to affect. Okay. So let's zoom out. Now look at that. We've got this fantastic light streaming in over the valley, and we've maintained our nice detail on the mountain. And I've actually left a small bit of glow here, sorry, on the right hand side, because it was just peeking out and I wanted to seep out over the rocks and over the mountain. So that looks very good. I can zoom in there a bit. Sorry, my mouse is going absolutely berserk. Don't be afraid to zoom right in. Like, be selective with the details here. Okay. There you go. Sorry if you can hear my phone vibrating on the table, or if you can hear the birds singing. It's 10 to 6 in the evening here in Australia, and the birds are going crazy outside my window. Okay. Just like that. Fantastic. Oh, I love that already. Okay, so that's kind of, now look at what we've got so far. We've only done small little global adjustments, highlights and shadows, and we've created a very compelling image already. Look, before and after. Okay, so what's next? I'm going to go down to my split toning here. Okay, so it's called color grading tab. I'm going to go into my midtones, and if you're not sure what areas of the image are your midtones, then have a play around with the slider. Just go mad with saturation, okay? Obviously that looks horrendous, but now I know that all these areas are my midtones. Great way to find out what areas you're going to target. Okay, so I'm going to bring the hue up more towards the orange, because this is obviously shot at sunset, and that's looking absolutely fantastic already. Okay, and now I'm going to go to my highlights. I'm going to bring the hue up towards the same color, the orange, and we're going to increase the saturation there. Now, to create a bit of a contrast in color, I'm going to make my shadows cooler. Okay, only a small bit. Fantastic. And I'm actually going to decrease the luminance of the shadows, and look at how that's made the image a bit more impactful in terms of contrast. And we'll crease the midtones a bit. There you go. Now, already that's looking very, very nice. We've created this soft light coming in either side of the mountain. We've got a nice moody sky. Okay, we've got a bit of light seeping in here, which is what I wanted. We've done our color grading. Like, please get your colors correct. The amount of images I see online where the colors are just like, if there's not a warm sky, don't try and create a warm sky, because it just looks horrific. People adding warmth to daylight photos and it's just got a warm haze in the sky. Please do not do it. That's basic. That's pretty much it, really. Like, I don't have too much more I want to do. Perhaps a small vignette. Like, after this, it's really, I mean, you could go in here and you could saturate a bit more your colors. Very little sharpening needed. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to put a paint overlay. And this is all subjective, okay? I just want to show you a couple of little tools I use, particularly with the masking and intersecting masks and brushing them out. And yeah, that's really it. I didn't touch this warmth at all. So I'll make that a tiny bit warmer. And there you go. Look at all my lens spots there. That's something I do need to clean up, but that wasn't really the purpose of this video. Yeah, I need to clean up. Like, look, oh, my sensor's quite dirty. Anyway, you get the idea. That's the edit done, more or less. If I was going to go into Photoshop, I would add a bit of art and glow and stuff, but when I reduce the clarity here, that solved that issue. Okay, so I hope you found that helpful. I hope it wasn't too complicated for you. That was solely in Lightroom, so I hope those of you that are only editing in Lightroom found some solace in this video. Okay, all the best. Thanks for watching.